Hello everyone, in this video I'll be showing you a War-Singing Cleric Wizard multi-class build in Baldur's Gate 3. This will be combining the Bladesinging Wizard with the War Domain Cleric, which is melee damage focused, which obviously the Bladesinging Wizard is all about too. We get really powerful spell casting, melee attacks, and a lot more, with the War Domain giving us 3 bonus action attacks per long rest at level 1, and this will scale up as we increase in level. It also gives us Shield of Faith and Divine Favor. I recommend starting with the Cleric because it's got a pretty strong start. We also get to add some new spells into the mix now with the Toll the Dead and Bursting Sinew, and Sacred Flame is nice to have, but for most early game damage options, the Toll the Dead is going to be the best choice. This is a Wisdom save. Also, Dawn Sword's Necromancy spells can be a good addition here. Ability scores is where this gets a little bit tricky because we do need Dexterity, Constitution, Intelligence, and Wisdom. I would actually recommend, since there's 3 items in the game that can bump our stats up of Dexterity, Constitution, or Intelligence, the Dexterity gloves are good early game, so you can dump that, put your points into Intelligence. The Constitution Amulet is another good choice. And also there's the Intelligence Circlet, which you could use as well. I'm going to dump Constitution, use the Constitution Amulet, but it's really best to use the Dexterity Gloves early game. He'll still give you a +4 to initiative, making sure that you move first. Level 2 gives us our Guided Strike, adding a +10 to our attack rolls, meaning we're much more likely to land our shots, which is extremely useful if we need to guarantee that we take out an enemy. As for spells, Guiding Bolt can be nice for a bit of extra damage. Command, one of the most powerful spells in the game that we can utilize to our advantage. We also got Healing Word, Sanctuary, which is kind of nice to have, and Bless. Now, it's actually interesting because there's a couple multi-classes that we could potentially do, which I'll get to in just a moment. At level 3, this gives us the Spiritual Weapon and Magic Weapon spells, Spiritual Weapon being a good choice, and we'll take the Hold Person spell there. Aid can be another nice thing to add into the mix if you prefer. At level 4, we get our first feat, and we get to take another cantrip. Produce Flames nice because it gives you fire damage. You can actually cast this. It lasts until long rest. Don't throw it and it'll light your character up for Act 3 or Act 2. And then for our next level spell here, Prayer of Healing can be a decent choice. And even I mentioned Aid is nice to have. For the feat, I would recommend with either the Alert, giving a +5 to initiative and ability score improvement on either our Intelligence or Wisdom. The Warcaster, if you're not going to use the Constitution Amulet, and even Spell Sniper to get Eldritch Blast is a good choice. But I think here that we'll go with either an increase to our Intelligence or Wisdom, or take the Alert feat for that +5 to initiative. Going first is massive and something that's going to help out quite a bit. Now at this point, level 5 gives us Spirit Guardians, but as mentioned, there is another multi-class we could add in. We could add in 2 levels of the Paladin. So we go 4 levels of the War Domain Cleric, 2 levels of the Paladin, and then 6 levels of the Bladesinging Wizard. We still get access to level 6 spells, and we get we wouldn't get Spirit Guardians. That way we would get Divine Smite, which is really good to have too. But I like to get Spirit Guardians here. It's pretty powerful of a spell, and we can also upcast it, and then when we're running around doing our melee spells, we can hit enemies with that. So I'd recommend having that there, and then for our extra spells, we can grab like Mass Healing Word. Glyph of Warding, if you're a half-elf, you can drop it at your feet and have a sleep one. It'll put everyone to sleep except yourself, and you can also make different elemental damage types. Revivify is a nice spell to have, or Animate Dead as well, but we'll go with that there. And then into our last level of the War Cleric, we get the Channel Divinity War God's Blessing, which can buff up our team. If you have someone with great Weapon Master, it's oftentimes not hitting their shots. This will give that +10 bonus to attack rolls, meaning you're much more likely to succeed. And we also get another Channel Divinity charge here, and there's a third one we can get with another item. And for this level here, we're going to go with either Aid. You can go back and grab like the Lunar, I guess, we got other spells like I guess I got some mods installed. Create or Destroy Water if you have a lightning or cold damage caster on your team. Aid is really nice because we can use higher level spell slots to upcast that, especially if you have any type of free cast ability. And I actually recommend not continuing down with the Cleric and actually at this point the Wizard, as we want to get that extra attack. This also gives us access to Booming Blade, very powerful. I like to also have Mage Hand and Bone Chill. This will stop targets from receiving healing. Mage Hand can throw health potions or water bottles, and Booming Blade is just extremely powerful. For the spells we'll be taking, we got a lot of choice here. I would recommend grabbing the Mage Armor spell there. Mage Armor is just going to give us an increased overall armor class, although you can use scrolls of it. Magic Missile, Ice Knife, Fine Familiar, Fog Cloud, and Grease can be other good choices if you didn't want to take anything else, or Chromatic Orb. It's really up to you because we're going to replace spells with scrolls a bit later on. Level 2 gives us our subclass, and we'll take the Bladesinging Wizard there, which will add a +3 to our armor class. Now, there's a couple options for armor, which we'll get to. For spells, I guess I didn't grab Shield there. I meant to grab Shield and Thunderwave. For the Bladesinging weapon, this is whatever you want because it's just a basically free weapon. And then we're going to make sure that we have Shield equipped at all times. Extremely effective to have. And I also like to have Grease as its concentration-free crowd control. At level 3, we get access to some very powerful spells with Scorching Ray, And Shadow Blade, now this is going to be the most powerful damage. We can get this upcast to a 4d8. That's doubled in damage, so it's essentially an 8d8 weapon. It's insane. There's no other weapon in the game that can do that much damage, so we're going to take it, but you don't have to take it if you don't want to. If you want to go with something else like Mirror Image or Misty Step are two other good choices, and even Darkness if you prefer going Darkness. Now at level 4 here, we get another cantrip, so I'd recommend grabbing Firebolt if you need to explode something. And then at this point, Misty Step, we already have Hold Person, and Mirror Image is nice too to increase armor class by 9. And then we can also just make sure that we have that prepared. And for the feat here, we could go with, I like to bring up our intelligence, at least make them balance a little bit, or you can go with an increase to wisdom. This will allow us to prepare another spell here, which is great to have. And you could alternatively take switch the wisdom and intelligence stats and bring that up to 18 instead. Now level 5, make sure that you grab counterspell. You can't learn that from a scroll like you can Fireball and Lightning Bolt, so we want to have that because those are two really good spells just in general to have, but we're going to learn more from scrolls. And level 6 gives us the extra attack, obviously quite powerful. We also get Lightning Bolt and can grab Haste if we wanted to, or Sleet Storm. And then for prepared spells, I'd recommend preparing these as follows and maybe add a Misty Step there. So always have Counterspell is extremely useful to have. All right, so for gear, there's a couple options. We can use heavy armor, honestly, as we will forego the Bladesinging abilities here, but this will allow us to get a pretty decent armor class, the extra attacks, 2 spell slots. Now I'll show you clothing as well, but armor persistence, obviously one of the best damage armor in the game. We also have the Helmet of Arcane Acuity, so every time we attack, we stack up Arcane Acuity for 2 turns. Since this is a light armor, we also got the Cloak Protection. I like to go with the Gloves of the Belligerent Skies. When we deal Thunder, Lightning, or Radiant damage, we apply Reverberation, and then this will also apply further Reverberation. The Ring of Elemental Infusion outside of Honor mode, whenever you do Booming Blade, you'll do Thunder damage on your next attack, which is also great to have. And we can also go with something like the Ring of Arcane Synergy or the Ring of Mental Inhibition, which gives a -2 to the mental saves anytime a target receives or fails a saving throw. The Ring of Arcane Synergy is nice whenever you deal damage with cantrip. So if we use the Booming Blade, this will give us our intelligence modifier to our weapon attack rolls, or damage rolls, which will give us an extra 3 damage. Not super useful. You can just go with the Caustic Band for guaranteed +2 damage, Killer Sweetheart for the free critical hit, and a Crusher's Ring for the movement speed. Or you could go with the, since we are a healer at the end of the day, the Whispering Promise gives a bonus to attack rolls whenever healing. If we're going to use Darkness and use a Shadow Blade, this will give a 1d4 bonus to the damage, which is nice as well. So we got lots of options, and you can even go, I like the Ring of Mental Inhibition, but the Ring of the Mystic Scoundrel Band here, which will give Enchantment and Illusion spells as bonus actions, giving us Hold Person as a bonus action. But I think the best choice, Ring of Mental Inhibition there, and then Ring of Protection. Now we can use the Staff of Spell Power for something pretty cool. This is how we're going to get our weapon. So I guess first, we got 2 different versions of this. First, we're going to use one that has aid, so we're going to take this and upcast aid on everyone, so free 25 extra health, taking us up to 154. And then we'll swap in and take another staff here. The Market Heshker is nice because it also has like the Bolts of Doom. We're not actually going to use that, but what you're going to do is you're going to take this and use the Arcane Battery, and we're going to take Shadow Blade and give ourselves an upcasted version of Shadow Blade for free, and it replaces our weapon there. So we lose that, but we get that 4d8. So it's upwards of 40 damage, which is doubled. So we have the Resonance Stone, so that becomes 80 damage max. Pretty crazy. And if we want to go clothing based, we'll swap out and use the Hat of Fire Acuity, as it's not light armor like that Arcane Acuity hat. And then also using the Robe of the Weave, which gives bonus to spell save DC, spell attack rolls, and whenever we succeed a saving throw, we heal ourselves. Now, even furthermore to this, we're going to make sure that we have mage armor on ourselves, so we can either cast as a spell or use it from a scroll. Make sure you at least have one spell like Chain Lightning, and Odaluk's Freezing Sphere is another one that I like, or Wall of Ice. So make sure you learn one of those from a scroll, because we do have level 6 spell slots, and if you have the Lith ability free cast, it's 2 Chain Lightnings that we can cast, which is really nice when we have things like Create Water as well to set up extra damage. Make sure that you do make sure that it is prepared as a spell, and I'd recommend always having Scorching Ray equipped, because Scorching Ray with the Fire Acuity hack can give you a +10 to spell save DC, so you first cast Scorching Ray and then go with Chain Lightning, then we can go with melee attacking. You can also set up and have Create or Destroy Water, as that's not a bad option to have, just to make sure that you're able to heal or be able to set up the double damage. So you can see how this really goes hard. If we have the Helmet of Arcane Acuity go around melee attacking, otherwise I set up water here prior to battle, because it doesn't aggro. What we want to do to be able to set up our spell casting, because right now if we do a Chain Lightning, 70% hit chance, we can do better than that. We can actually go ahead with a Scorching Ray here and blast away, trying to make it so that we hit and get that extra bonus to our spell casting from the Hat of Fire Acuity. So then we can just, I guess we'll just ignore that. We'll ignore the Guided Strike there. We don't want to blast away with those. we now have +8 to Arcane Acuity. We missed one of those. That puts our spell save DC up to 24, and then our 70% turns to 95%, as you can see there. So much increased, much better. We're going to do this instead, and then go with Chain Lightning there. Boom, 94, 80, 82, 92. Yeah, Chain Lightning, pretty good. And for some reason, our War Priest charge is not working properly, but that would normally give us an extra attack as a bonus action. If you don't have a bonus action, use Spiritual Weapons, never a bad idea. And always use the Maul, since the Maul can daze targets so that we can hit them with things like Hold Person Command easier. As always, Shield's a goat for protecting ourselves, and it'll give us that +5 armor class for the rest of the turn. And we have a 30 armor class after hitting Shield, so yeah, we're pretty hard to hit. And I guess I didn't even activate the Blade Song, that would have been 33. And the Concussive Smash here may make it a little easier for us to land any of our... they saved on it. Any of our Wisdom-based spells. So on our turn, Booming Blade, always a good choice. I guess I should make sure... I guess we should have removed the shield to be able to go into the Blade Song. I kind of screwed that up. Removing the shield and putting a weapon in our offhand will allow us to use the Blade Song there. We get the +3 to armor class. This does have a lot of benefits as well to using it, but we could have went with the heavy armor. And what's nice is with Blade Song, you can put things in your offhand like a Dole or a Maris, which will give you additional critical hits. So that 7 will actually turn to a 14 because we're dealing psychic damage. But yeah, that's something to also, you just got to remember to take off the shield. So that was a nice knockout there. We'll use our second attack to attack this target, saving Shadowheart, 48 damage on the dot. It's exactly what we needed. And then for our next attack here, we can go with either Lightning Bolt or another Chain Lightning. If you have free cast, that gives you the ability to do another Chain Lightning, which is never a bad choice, especially if there's a wet target there, which we can deal extra damage to. That was, yeah, 45, 20, 98, crazy amounts of damage. And then now we got our extra War Priest bonus action attack as proper. We should have had that earlier, but then we can go after a target that's effective with the reverberation because we may be able to deal a bit of extra thunder damage to them. That was enough to just one shot with the 76 damage. As I mentioned, Shadow Blade is extremely powerful. And bonk. So perfectly, we got someone right in our face here. That's a recipient of a Booming Blade. 6 health left, we don't care. 90 plus 25 health, 115 damage on a single melee attack is absurd. We didn't even go into casting something like Spirit Guardian, so you can always go ahead with like an upcast of Spirit Guardians doing upwards of 68 radiant damage, which is really nice. So good concentration to hold, and then you can just run up on enemies. Sometimes that's all they need to be taken out with. So yeah, full spellcaster, extra chance of hitting, bonus action attacks. We're pretty good in both melee and spellcasting because the wizard obviously gets some very powerful spells. You basically have 2 channel divinities to guarantee your hit if you were to miss an attack with it. You can turn that into a hit, and you get 4 bonus action attacks per long rest. So actually pretty powerful in terms of its combat effectiveness. You get spellcasting, melee attack, and it does it all. Let me know your thoughts in the comments. Hit the subscribe button below if you enjoyed, and I'll catch you all in the next video.